happy. It's like the wolves were chomping at him. And here comes a big wolf, Norwegian style, Magnus Carlsen, as he looks to win yet another game.
Indeed, trying to make up for what was just a disastrous rapid portion. He's now in his element in the blitz, but he is going up against Sergei Karyakin, a former world champion, blitz world champion, as, by the way, is Lanier Dominguez as well, another former world blitz champion.
And somebody that Magnus is, of course, well acquainted with, having played him in New York for the World Championship as that game went into playoff.
Yeah.
Sergei Karyakin, this game, I think he will continue with this. He'll try to repeat the game against Magnus. He would love to play another knight D2 Benoni, but I think
I don't think we're going to see a Bogo.
I think that Magnus is going to stray in this situation.
Absolutely. I would be very surprised if Magnus didn't play a little bit on offbeat Queen's Gambit Decline, maybe even a Slav, but definitely not a repeat of the rapid.
And as the game gets started, well,
an invitation to a French.
Well,
that's a big surprise. E4, E6.
And this suggests that maybe he is.
And there goes the
C4.
Invitation accepted. Knight C3.
Magnus?
Hello. I mean,
Magnus
and the Steinitz with
all kinds of stuff.
Well, we know he has an enormous repertoire, but Simon Agnestein, that's right. Simon has been the trainer from boyhood, I should say, for Magnus.
How do you feel about this particular line in the French?
Oh, I think it's a very, very good line. I like this whole ending with Queen B6. You have to be a genius to beat black in this ending after trading of queens. Garry Kasparov did it once against Evgeny Baryaev, but it's very hard for white to win this ending.
Why is that? Because the bishop on c8 is traditionally such a bad piece in the French, so why is this endgame so holdable?
Well, the problem is where's white's breaks? Just think about that quickly for a second. It's got to be c4, f5.
Yep.
Right? Those are your breaks. If there's other breaks, you let me know. Black is going to play king e7, bishop d7, and g5. Black's break is with g5, and the queen side is holdable. The 3 versus 2. You think about a Sicilian there for a moment, and we have h4 on the board.
So stop this move you mentioned, g5.
Move g5. Okay, normally speaking, that's not the move. White usually starts with knight b5. He usually wants to get his knight to the d4 square. So he is giving Magnus the opportunity to play bishop d7 right away.
And then you wouldn't want to play knight b5?
Because of bishop takes b5.
And get rid of that
French, yeah. Get rid of the Achilles heel.
Eventually, that knight on b6 is going to find some nice square.
Now, already Magnus is trying to understand why this move h4 and this particular move was played, and I think Magnus is thinking, Sergei, you've misplayed it. And now h5 for sure he's misplayed.
Sergei is arguing
he's definitely
that he's not misplaying the position by insisting on this plan. But h5, h6.
I definitely think that it's a mistimed. Everything is mistimed now. And king e7.
Queenside castles played, so
h6 was played.
h6 and then queenside castles all on the board.
And now king e7
yes, that's
like
right.
An automatic.
And that was already played, and now it's Sergei back on move. So the move knight e2 isn't going to get to d4 in the same advantageous way because you have the irritating bishop b5.
Precisely.
Or even knight c4 is
That's
possible.
why he had to play bishop d3 first as a prelude to playing knight e2 to d4.
A6, so why not knight e2 now, yeah?
Well, again,
bishop b5 again
bishop
okay.
b5 is the idea.
And look at this, looking to trade off knights is Magnus. After rook to h3, knight to a4.
And Magnus is thinking that the knight on b6 is doing nothing. Let me redirect my knight to the c5 square.
And
now knight e2 played,
avoiding the trade.
But this allows your bishop b5, but knight c5 instead preferred by Magnus.
But some play on the c file to worry about, but knight d4.
I'm a little bit surprised by this particular way of play by Magnus. I really thought that he was going to get in f7, f6 quite quickly.
Knight d4 played, by the way. There we have it.
Yeah, I thought that the knight on b6 was fine. He could bring his bishop to b5, his knight to d7, his pawn to f6. Now, Sergei is looking for an opportunity to play rook on h3 to g3, and now it's difficult for you to play rook g8 because of bishop h7.
That's right. That bishop does come to conclusion. And note that taking on d3, you are
very
taking
helpful for white.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you're taking a bishop, but you're going to have a good bishop for Sergei versus a bad bishop for Magnus, which was why I was surprised a few moves ago. Was it possible maybe bishop b5? I thought we had a slim opportunity to play that.
I think he did have that opportunity at the time that he played knight a4 to c5. I'm pretty sure Magnus was thinking like, oh, okay, I got no problems. I don't have to do anything special. Now he can play rook g8, bishop h7, rook h8, and there's a king f8 if you take on g7. And Magnus has seen that tactic, and he's just played the move rook g8. And what I'm saying is that in case of bishop, rook, you get your hand caught in the cookie jar there with the move king f8 and something white loses.
Okay, but what's happening on the board now is quite interesting. He played king d2.
Oh, I'm going to just have to refresh my board. It's okay. King d2, yes.
He played king to d2, bishop to b5.
A move we had expected a move ago.
Yes, but now he's got the knight e4 check trick.
Yes.
That prevents you from winning this pawn on b5.
Bishop takes b5, knight e4 check is a fork. Absolutely, Maurice.
And f5 ignoring all the demonstrations, going for it.
Something.
Yeah.
Those are your only breaks. So now we're expecting bishop takes d3.
I'm going to tell you, the engines really like white's position the way it's building right now.
Because of this break. He got in this break somehow earlier than black could get in the g5.
And white has all the pressure.
Well,
White has the
now
break.
we're
White has the rook on the g file.
Now we're threatening maybe takes in bishop h7 all of a sudden because, you know, rook g7 comes with check.
Well, the thing that I'm worried about is after takes on d3, a move, for example, like knight d7, there is a problem. We can take, you have to be careful not to allow a rook coming to g6.
Exactly. Knight d7 played, takes on e6.
There was bishop d7.
Oh, bishop d7.
Takes on e6, bishop takes e6.
That's all
well,
on the
you
board.
can see that Magnus has not played this particularly well, and because he just had his bishop on d7, and you could still see how difficult it is for white to claim an edge. Knight d7 to target this pawn on e5 is what's on black's agenda.
King e3 play, by the way, looking to potentially use
That's
it.
a weird one.
Wow.
Rook f1 was the engine's top choice, adding the pressure. This move, king e3, knight d7.
Was he trying to play king f4?
Well, yeah, I was about to say, remember what I was saying about g5. Knight d7.
King f4.
King f4, g5 check.
Okay,
H
well,
takes
I better
g5,
take it.
f takes g5, and now I'm threatening rook f8. Check.
That's a problem.
Also problematic is rook f8 immediately if you put your king on f4.
Oh,
Bishop
H7, an
instead,
old friend coming back now.
Because
Magnus is
your
thinking
idea before
was
doesn't
king
work
f8
anymore
because of knight takes e6.
Knight takes e6, yeah. So bishop h7, rook h8, rook takes g7.
And then I got to go knight takes e5.
Exactly. You have to take
That's
on
not
e5
bad.
instead.
Yeah, but I was about to say you can't play king f8.
Because of knight takes e6
Exactly.
check, and then we just win on d7 as well.
Exactly.
Okay, but
So,
that's just not
rook
bad.
h8.
So we're taking rook g7 on the
and
board.
knight takes
now he's taking the
e5
e5
on the board.
And Magnus is basically out of difficulty. That sequence did not work out in white's favor.
Not at all.
Maybe,
it did not because by the way,
yeah.
now king f6 is on black's agenda.
So rook f1 played by Sergei very quickly, by the way.
Okay, so now they're
both at 2 minutes
check.
each, by the way.
Ooh, no knight check. I think it's time just to huddle up with king d6.
Why do you reject? Oh, because you're just worried about.
Well, knight c4 check, say king e2, knight takes. There's a knight takes e6 and a bishop f5, but then there's a king f6. There's a long-winded tactical sequence. He's
Rook
played
to e8.
What?
That is deep. What is this? Putting the rook on this line.
Wow. Okay.
Mysterious rook moves.
That is mysterious indeed.
That is a
that-
shocking move, actually. Well, first of all, he does get out of the threat of knight takes e6 and bishop f5. But wasn't there a better square for the rook to find than e8? Okay, very confusing. And again, the times, Jen, minute.
It looks like a minute and a half for each player.
This is rich. And a deep think right now by Sergey as he's trying to figure out how to organize this, but he's got to worry about the clock.
And bad news for the Frenchman. Richard Report has defeated MVL.
Wow,
Rough day.
what a result.
Well, I was telling you guys I'm beginning to become a Richard Report
We will look
fan.
at that blunder by MVL later, and as Aronians feels good about that, but he's got to keep up the pace. As I said, knight takes e6 played, king takes e6. We will talk about that in a moment. Now, this trade, white does have...
I'm not a big fan of this trade by Sergey.
And
but he's played king
d4, marching up the board.
A good general leads his army. What is he going to do? Knight c6 check, king c5,
king
knight
c5.
back to e5. What is white's king doing on
King b6,
d4? No way. This is like, okay.
King d6
played. King b6.
I was expecting that to move a moment before rook e8 was played, but king d6.
And now what happens on rook f6 check? Instead, bishop g3 was played.
He's got rook e6 as a block to the rook f6 check. Now he does have knight c6 check, and the king would be driven back to c3, but that would still leave the f pawn hanging. So rook e6 looks like a standard.
He has played the check. King is dropped back.
Can't go to c5 anymore.
Back to e5. Okay, so Sergey has at least a draw.
Yeah, Sergey might do that.
And Sergey is saying...
Can Magnus differ somehow, yes?
Well, I thought that Magnus was going to play rook e6, frankly. Now, whether or not he should be playing for a win is, you know...
He will. Rook e6, there it is, yes.
I mean,
that's a claim. That's a staking the claim. He's saying, I am trying to beat you.
The best
You've got the rook on the 7th. You've got an open file. You've got the better minor piece. Good luck with that. I'm still playing for the win, putting the pressure on. And I think Sergey felt that on that last move, that Magnus has just made this very clear statement.
But what about rook f6?
Rook f6 looks like a good one. You see, you start to feel it. When the guy tells you he's going to play to beat you, you start to feel it.
And bishop d3. Now, Magnus, well, the problem is if Magnus trades the rooks, the rook on g7 will actually be a very... Okay, he's given him a chance to play rook check.
And Magnus has now jumped to take this trade.
Everything has changed because the king can come to f6 and drive white's rook, which was very active, off of g7.
This is still a crazy position.
But Sergey in lots of time pressure compared to Magnus. 17 seconds to Magnus's 51.
That's critical. That's big.
Okay, Magnus is setting up a cheapo here.
Sergey's not coming up to pace with the clock situation. Look at this.
Aware.
He's still moving slowly. 10 seconds back.
Guys, it seems like he's still in the rapid zone. The 10-second delay zone.
He hasn't really made that adjustment. Okay, but no, that was a great move by Sergey. Rook b4. Ooh, this rook b6 check. What's rook b6 check?
No,
b6 looked like a good one. Knight c6, bishop a6 is what you were talking about, yes.
Oh my
but now the king has protected that knight. He missed it looks like he missed a check and a take on a6. Now just going for something on the other side.
And the times?
And now
7 seconds, yes.
Now that rook, it looks... What is happening? Weirdly
the rook
placed.
is getting trapped by the white rook after d4. No, he's played knight d4. Oh, that was a surprise for me. Now the rook is actually back in the... It's amazing. Why did he allow this rook on b6 to get to... No, Magnus is losing. Rook h8 and rook takes h6. He's just losing.
Why losing?
Uh-oh. Wait a minute.
He's losing the pawn.
Wait.
He's in trouble. You're right.
We couldn't have stuck something on e6?
Oh, my goodness.
He's in trouble. Magnus is in big trouble. The pawn's about to drop.
And there it goes.
Oh, no.
I mean, sometimes you overplay your hand.
7 seconds right now for Sergey, needing to figure out everything.
All he's got to do is put his pawn to h7. h6, h7 is quick. Ooh.
He's trying to trade. Looks like he's going to trade off rooks.
King f4? Why did he give him a check? King f4.
He wanted to trade off those rooks. But was that a good idea? Because now the g4 pawn dead.
But h6.
f5.
Oh, and he picks that one off just in time. Magnus is losing now. big trouble. Big trouble as Sergey's up a pawn, and he is just flicking these moves out. There goes that pawn, but now it's a 3 against 2 on the other side, and it doesn't look like the black king is going to get over in time.
You're miles away from the queen side, and Sergey's
the B pawn and the A pawn
ending.
are both going to drop. Magnus needs a trick of some kind. There's his first trick. You can't take the pawn.
Oh, he did.
Check. He did.
You can still
Oh,
take
man.
it.
He went away from the pawn.
And the knight's trapped.
Yeah, nice
C4
technique.
and king C3
And
coming.
the A8 square is a light square, so C4,
So no
king
worries
C3.
about the mate. He has to resign.
What
Magnus
a beautiful
goes
technique
down.
by Sergey.
Amazing.
Yes, can you just take us through the moment before we look at the other games? What happened?